Hello everyone, welcome back to Angela's Craft Room. I've come to you today with this card that I made. I'm going to be doing it in two tutorials. So first tutorial is going to be how I did the background. You can see it. I've used the Hardwood stamp set and then I've sponged it before stamping the lighthouse and all the other elements onto the card, creating this scene. So the first tutorial we're going to do is how I created the background first. Okay, so put that card aside. Now I'm just going to bring in my Misty tool and open that up, and I've already got the Hardwood stamp ready to go. Now this is the Hardwood stamp, and it's a very good background stamp. It can be used in so many ways. Even though it's going this way, I'm going to be actually using it on the card going across like that. So I've got my stamp ready to go. I've got a piece of Very Vanilla on there. And I'm just going to stamp that up with Soft Sky. Now I most probably do it a couple of times, and that's the good thing with the Misty tool. So I'm just going to stamp that up again. Just pick up the lid and down again, and it'll go in the same place. And I'm quite happy with that impression that it's given me, but if you wanted more, you just keep going until you get the depth of colour that you are after. And I have pre-done part of it before the tutorial to save time. So from this piece, then you cut it down to how big you want it on your card. Okay, so we'll just come back in a bit. So then what I did was I started sponging. So to start with, I use Soft Sky, and then I bring in a little bit of Pink Pirouette, and at the bottom Pear Pizzazz. So we're going to start off with a bit of Soft Sky, and I know I get so many questions asking how I sponge, because how do you get such a smooth result? And I do use this Ranger blending tool. I used to use Stampin' Up sponges, but I found that I didn't get enough control, and I had to put too much pressure on my wrists. My wrists aren't the best these days, and as a lot of crafters would be able to know. So you can see that that's really coming on quite nicely, and I'd go down about 3 or 4 boards in this colour. So I'm doing it quite a lot faster than I normally do, but I wanted to do the tutorial so you see how I sponge, and you don't have to add a lot of pressure. You can go back and forwards. Now remember, this isn't on watercolor paper, so the cardstock will get quite damp, but that's okay. Once we've done this sponging technique, then we would set it aside. overnight before we start stamping our seam. But that's why I thought it was best that I just do the background for you first. And you just keep applying it till you're happy with how much colour is on there for you. And you can go back to it. Now I'm going to bring in a bit of Pear Pizzazz. Now because this is a stronger colour, I'm trying to do it a bit lighter as I'm coming on. So you can see the lovely pink colour. Just push that back into camera view for you. I had a couple of spots there that I wasn't happy with, so I just went over them. So now I'm just going to come in from this side. And you notice that I tap a lot of the ink off before I'm actually coming onto the card. Now I'm going to bring that down pretty much to the last board, and then we're going to bring in Pear Pizzazz on the last board. But there's no wrong or right way, it's just what you're happy with. And I'm just bringing that back up to the soft sky so it all blends through. And then lastly, we just need to bring in a little bit of Pear Pizzazz. Now this is a strong colour. Because this is where the sea and the sand is going to be in our finished card. So when I'm sponging, I actually go in on an angle with my Ranger blending tool, but then when I've hardly got any ink on, I just go backwards and forwards. So I'm just on an angle and I'm not adding that much pressure at all. So I'm quite happy with that. So you can see how effective that is with the hardwood stamp, and then by blending on top of that. But then as an extra thing, what we're going to do is we're going to take our Versamark ink pad, which you can buy from Stamping Up as well, and we're just going to stamp that entire piece. Now you would have to leave this overnight to dry because it's going to be quite wet. Probably need a little bit more. So I am adding quite a bit of pressure because I want to really make sure that this is covered in Versamark ink. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is bring in a piece of just normal photocopying paper. It doesn't matter how we have it on there. And we're going to be using some clear embossing paper. powder, sorry. Now one thing I didn't do, which I should have, was before I put the versamark ink, I should have wiped it over with my embossing buddy, but all good. Seeing we're embossing the whole thing, it's most probably not going to matter too much. I didn't mean to tip all that out. So then we're going to make sure so we've got that like that, and then we want to put all this back into our jar. So let's put all that back into our jar. And I'm just going to get rid of that into my bin. Now you're going to hear my heat tool, and I do warm it up a little while before I bring it across to my embossed image. So you can see that it's just starting to melt now. And you can see what a lovely gloss that has given it. And you just have to make sure, I've just missed one spot, you have to make sure that you do put a really good covering of embossing powder. There we go. Really good covering of embossing powder on there. So I hope you can see on the tutorial, it really gives a really nice sheen, and it's a very vibrant background, and it's a nice pastel soft. So we're going to set that aside and let it, it's already dry, but just let it cool so it will flatten a little bit for me so I can do it. So just to show you the difference, this is one I did last night. So I'll just zoom out a little bit. So that's your glossed one, and that's your not glossed one. So you can see the difference, because you can see by doing the embossing, it does give you that nice sheen, whereas this is just, it has just stayed quite flat in colour. So I hope you'll give that technique a try. So I'll just let this flatten about a little bit, and then I'll be back in a couple of days and we'll do the scene using the High Tide stamp set. So thank you for watching, and until Next time, happy crafting!